Hello everybody, John from Movie Burners here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be discussing the original cult classic Blade Runner from 1982. Now, I was very late in watching this film. I didn't watch this film until late last year, and I was obviously aware of its status as a cult classic. And I knew that it was a very good film, and it featured the acting talents of a certain Mr. Harrison Ford, a man I am a massive fan of. So why I never get round to watching this film for the first 28 years of my life is beyond me. Well, I know why I didn't watch it when I was a young child, because it wasn't a film for a young child. But after that, there's no excuse. But I digress. Before I get into watch this film, I think it'd be fair to say I was slightly apprehensive as to what to expect, given the setting and the year of release and the tendency for sci-fi films of that era to not age particularly well, with a few notable exceptions of course. But you know, I was pleased after watching it that those fears were allayed, because it was visually quite impressive despite being 35 years old at the time. And there was a couple of little niggly things in there, like the slightly optimistic 2019 technology, i.e. flying cars and stuff like that. But it was certainly interesting, and Ridley Scott clearly took inspiration from George Lucas in the way he chose to have Star Wars blend its futuristic setting with a gritty, lived-in feel. Now, story-wise, it's fairly straightforward. It's a double perspective plot that follows the main protagonist, Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, an ex-police officer forcibly returned to active service to track down and retire 4 Nexus 6 replicants. Now, when I say retire, that is the in-universe term for murdering, essentially. And Nexus 6 is not a mobile phone or anything like that. It's a advanced bioengineered being created by the Frankensteinian Tyrell Corporation. With just a 4-year lifespan, this new generation of replicant has went AWOL in search of an extended existence, and are essentially handed these death sentences as a result. It opens with one such replicant, Leon Kowalski, played by Brian James, being put through the Voight-Kampff test by a Blade Runner in a rather smoky looking office environment to determine whether he's human or not. The test working essentially by assessing the emotional response to a series of questions. Now, this doesn't end well for poor Holden, played by Morgan Paul, who's quickly shot and killed, kicking off the action in a fairly brutal fashion and setting the tone nicely for the film. Now, step forward the aforementioned Deckard, who then begins the unenviable task of tracking these loose cannons down. Now, during all of this, we have the synchronous story of lead replicant Roy Batty, played by Rutger Hauer, Leon for a short while, and his beautiful acrobatic sidekick Price Stratton, played by Daryl Hannah. They track down an engineer by the name of J.F. Sebastian, played by William Sanderson, who incidentally has a similar shortened lifespan thanks to a strange glandular disease. And they track this chap down to really arrange a meeting with their creator, Dr. Eldon Tyrell, played by Joe Turkel. A meeting which, unsurprisingly, ends in tears when it takes place, and it's established that there's no way of extending this shortened lifespan. Now, Harrison Ford is a match made in heaven for the role of Deckard, a tired looking man reluctant to get involved, who ends up deeply conflicted when he develops a relationship with Rachel, played by Sean Young, an experimental replicant with implanted memories. He's got the right level of gruffness and humanity, and he also brandishes another iconic weapon with all the swagger and confidence of Indy and Han Solo combined. He takes a fair beating at times too, often at the hands of his female colleagues, and just carries the film with absolute ease throughout. Likewise, I thought Rutger Hauer was an exceptional villain, if you can even call him that. His character is a bit of a cold psychopathic killer, but I feel he had justifiable reasons for doing and committing the actions he did in this film. The oppressive police and government within the world have effectively outcasted him and the others, forcing them underground and leaving them to live in perpetual fear of their lives, which are already short as it is. He's got a bit of an iconic look going on with the bleached blonde hair and the piercing blue eyes, and he plays the role very well indeed. The final scenes with him and Deckard were suspenseful, tense, and riveting. Other noteworthy performances for me were Daryl Hannah and Sean Young. Price, something of a manipulative, deranged acrobatic seductress, had more than a passing resemblance of a sort of 80s Harley Quinn, and Hannah was perfectly cast for this role and played the part brilliantly. Young was impressive too as the conflicted replicant Rachel. Her romantic subplot with Deckard and the thematic questions it posed brought a refreshing change of pace to the film, which was frankly frenetically paced. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Blade Runner, and although it's aged well, there is some dated parts within it, most notably the retro computer screens, but that is only to be expected given the year of release, and the analogue technology used certainly didn't take me out of the experience any. There was some really good performances in here, as I mentioned, excellent cinematography, and the plot managed to captivate me for the entirety of the running time. I like the very complex themes explored in what was a pretty simplistic story superficially, which is pretty much non-existent in many of the action films released these days. It questioned the uneasy relationship between humanity and AI, the meaning of life, consciousness, and even mortality itself. It also finished with an excellent ambiguous ending that left the ball in the viewer's court with regards to Deckard and whether he himself was a replicant. I love a degree of ambiguity in films, and it's done so well in Blade Runner. Now, I couldn't possibly finish the review without giving a special mention to that iconic Roy quote. All those moments will be lost in time like tears in the rain. I thought that was a beautiful moment and incredibly poignant. Now, I'm sure most people will have seen this classic, unlike me, 4 or 5 months ago, but if you haven't, then, like me, give it a shot because you're missing out and it's a great film, and I'll be giving it a flawless 5 out of 5. Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and iTunes, and give us a little follow on Facebook at Movie Burner Entertainment and on Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out at the Movie Burner blog on movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.